Hey there, Elon families. I'm Will Robertson, the Associate Director of Parent Engagement, and welcome to Season 4 of Between the Oaks, where we bring you interviews with some of Elon's most interesting and important people. It's hard to believe that we've already been doing this for 4 years, and if you've missed any of our previous episodes, I encourage you to go back and check out our archive. We're really excited about this year's slate of guests, starting today with Emily Krechel. She's the Director of New Student Programs here at Elon. You may have heard from her when your student was first transitioning to Elon. And today, we're going to learn about all the great things she's doing to help make Elon a better place. All right, we're here with Director of New Student Programs, Dr. Emily Krechel. Emily, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Absolutely. Well, so Emily, you've been the Director of New Student Programs at Elon here since 2017.
Yep.
For somebody who just doesn't know anything about it, what does that mean, Director of New Student Programs? Like, what are some of the big things you do in your role?
Yeah, most parents who are here at Elon know us for Move-In Day
Yep.
and New Student Orientation. Those are kind of our hallmark programs that we do in our office. Those smaller programs are the first year summer experiences. We have about 113-ish students who participate in one of those. That's in the July leading up to a student coming in August. So not as many students take part in those. We orchestrate kind of the big picture of those programs. And then we do spring new student orientation as well. And so that's a very small cohort, maybe 60 to 75 students total, including first years and transfer students.
Gotcha. So you mentioned the move-in process and working in the Office of Parent Engagement. We always hear all the parents raving about our move-in process. And so what is it about the way Elon does move-in that is so great?
Yeah. I think first and foremost is a community effort. Elon is a mid-sized private institution, and so you don't necessarily think that might be what you're going to get. But because our values are rooted in community and being here for our students, but also each other as a community of staff and faculty, we show up.
Yeah.
We want to show up. We want to greet the students and their families to make them feel welcomed on campus. And I think that is kind of our magic bullet to doing move-in, in that we really care deeply about the experience that our students have, and we want to bring them into our campus in a way that feels authentic and really truly welcoming.
Yeah, so what does that look like? I mean, I know we get volunteers, we get staff volunteers, we get student volunteers, athletes, things like that. Like what does that move-in experience look like from a parent perspective?
Yeah, you drive-through check-in. So we, over at the Shar Center, our basketball arena, in that back parking lot, you show up and there's over, throughout the whole morning, we have over 200 faculty and staff volunteers. And so at any one point in time, it's about 70 people back there in different lines, waiting to greet families and students as they're pulling through. It takes a couple of minutes to get checked in on there and get on the tablets, and the students to get their new student packet before you're ushered forth into the kind of the drive to your drop location for your residential neighborhood area. And then where you're greeted by more volunteers, mostly student leaders, but also some staff across the institution. And really, it's we've had families who say, "I didn't have to lift a finger." We don't promise that. We can't always guarantee that you don't have to lift a finger, but we will make it as easy as possible and take the logistics nightmare or the logistical stress out of it for families. We want to make it as simple as possible so families can really focus on their student and moving their student onto campus, into their room, and helping them get settled and being able to focus on their family and on that experience, as opposed to where do I park, how do I get there. We take that part out of it for them.
That's great. And I know it's changed a little bit. So part of how we do things at the Shar Center came out of COVID, right?
It did,
like doing the drive-through and things like that. So what did it used to look like?
Oh gosh. So we probably had 8 different check-in areas across campus. And so even pre-COVID, so you would get to campus, we probably had, I think, 3 different driving directions to campus. We tell people, if you're coming from I-40 and you got to get to this area, you need to come these ways. We had printed directions that we would ask people to follow. We would say, don't use your GPS, print these directions, and once you get off the highway, follow these step-by-step directions. We have like Google Maps now. Like everyone's using some form of AI mapping tools that help get them here. And so following step-by-step directions is not in our wheelhouses anymore. And so it was often very confusing of how do I get to where I need to go on campus. It had a lot of people who would stop police officers or facility staff being like, I need to get to East neighborhood, how do I get there? And they're down here over at the global neighborhood. And so it was pretty chaotic. And then students had to go to all the different places on campus. So they would check in their residential neighborhood to get their key and their orientation packet, but then they had to go to the Phoenix card office and walk to the Phoenix card office. And then they had to go and get their parking pass. And so then it just felt we were doing a disservice to students and families and taking up their day with these kind of things that we could make it easier. We can bundle that stuff together for folks. And so after that COVID, what we did over at the Shar Center for COVID and checking immunizations and other requirements, learned, wow, we really can do this. We can make it a one-stop shop and make it really seamless for students and their families.
And it used to be everybody could come, like there was no time, right? Everybody just kind of came at once.
We had some order to the chaos. We said if you lived on the 4th and 3rd floor, arrive at this time. If you lived on the 2nd floor of a building, arrive at this time. If you live on the 1st floor, arrive here. That was it. So we were seeing the move-in time was the same, 8 to 2-ish. Is what we would say, but we were finishing probably 8 to 10:30, but it was chaotic and stressful for everybody involved, and I don't think that was really doing anybody a service, and made it more stressful for families because there's so many people and not enough people to help.
One of the few good things that came out of COVID, right, was getting that straightened out. Well, so I would assume that spring and summer are some of your busiest times as you get ready to welcome in the new class. Kind of everybody else is kind of breathing a little bit, and you're ramping things up. So what do fall and winter look like for you?
That's a great question. So I would say the fall semester, we really get to breatth. Other departments across campus, the summer months, the students graduate, the students leave, go about their summer internships, classes, et cetera, somewhere else. During the summer, we are going 100 miles an hour. Fall, other offices going 100 miles an hour. We get to take a step back. Get to kind of assess what happened, do some assessments, debrief with our campus partners. What did we do well? What do we need to work on? What might we implement next year to make it even better? And so we do some of those debriefing moments. We take some holidays, some vacation, just able to reset before we start recruiting for our staff. And so our student leadership experiences that we have the orientation leaders, our team lead positions, and our student coordinators who help run orientation. So it's about 120 student leaders. And so we start recruiting for them and prepping that process. So that process launches for us in mid-September. So as we kind of gear up into the fall, we start that recruitment process. Then we also do training throughout the spring semester. And so we're gearing up to launch the training for those student leader positions.
Nice. And there are a couple other things that you're involved with on campus. It's not just new student programs, so I want to chat about those just a little bit. Talk to me about mentoring and meaningful relationships. That's something that's really important in general here at Elon. What role have you played in that effort?
I'm really glad you asked that because I think, as I mentioned, community is really essential here. And so people really are truly invested in the success of students and their colleagues, I would say. And so over the last 2 years, I was co-chairing a campus-wide committee called the Mentoring Design Team. So the Mentoring Design Team was charged with creating an infrastructure at Elon where every student can say that they had both a peer, a faculty, and a staff mentor by the time they've graduated Elon. And so we created this framework called Mentoring in Meaningful Relationships with the notion that every person has the capacity to apply mentoring skills to whatever relationship they might be in. And so you might just interact with a student one time, maybe just in line at the dining hall, but the way in which you engage with them, maybe the questions that you ask, are applying some of those mentoring skills that you have to dig deeper, to help that student reflect, just to feel like, wow, Will really cares about me. I just met Will, but I feel like Will's really invested in who I am. And same thing with a colleague. You can do the same thing. You're walking to a meeting together. Hey, how's it going? And applying those skills to those relationships. And I hope that as we continue to nurture this framework and kind of infuse into everything that we do at Elon, we can really launch that idea to everybody and have everyone really buy in that I can be a mentor in whatever relationship I might have.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you've taken a leadership role with some staff development things as well. So talk to me a little bit about the Early Career Institute that you've helped start up.
Yeah, I've been co-chairing that for 3 years now. It's a university-wide thing open to staff within their first 1 to 4 years of their career in higher education. So we see a lot of younger professionals, but we also see professionals who might be in their mid-30s or 40s, or even later in their careers, but they're new to their career in higher education. And so they sign up for this year-long experience where they are assigned a facilitator who, we don't want to call that person a mentor. Like you say the word mentor and people have these higher expectations, but maybe that turns into a mentorship relationship. But those facilitators are applying those mentoring skills, right, to those one-on-one relationships with their participants. So facilitators are assigned 2 to 3 participants who they'll meet with every other month individually. And then those other months we do group workshops. And we have competencies, so it's leadership, decision-making, university culture, skills for higher education professionals, inclusive excellence, wellness and well-being. So we use those competency areas to create these workshops for our participants, and our facilitators are there as well, so it's very much for them. And they engage in these workshops and just learn, how do I be a better professional? How do I learn about how I want to lead, how I want to show up in my career here at Elon?
That's awesome. And lastly, staff council is something that you're involved with as well. What does that mean, and how does that affect the environment on campus?
Yeah, absolutely. So Staff Advisory Council is similar to the Academic Council in the sense that it's a group, it's a body of people designed to help support the staff on campus. And so there's about 20 of us, and we have a smaller executive team. I'm the chair of the Staff Advisory Council. I've been on this my second year, and we are really designed to do three things for our staff on campus: advise, advocate, and inform. And so we advise both staff, but also our senior staff about what are the staff needs? What are we hearing? What's kind of rattling the cages of our staff? What are the vibes of staff on campus? And making sure that our senior leaders are aware of that. And then if there's an issue, we're going to advocate on behalf of the staff. And then it's both ways. And so maybe a decision has been made that staff aren't fully understanding why the university, our senior leaders made a decision. We can try to ask the questions to kind of get at the reason why, so we can advocate on behalf of the university making a certain decision. So we can make sure that we all are fully aware and on board with the direction the institution is heading in, because again, it goes back to that community. If I can appreciate what is happening at my institution, I can buy into it, and I want to be here, and I want to make sure that other people are having a good time.
Absolutely. Well, that's great. And that obviously having a great staff impacts the students.
It does, yes.
In a big way, so we appreciate all those efforts. So one last thing I like to ask everybody before we let you go. I know you're a Greensboro person, right? Live in Greensboro. So, but I'm going to ask you something more Burlington, Elon related. So when parents come to visit their students, where's a place that they should take them, or whether it be a restaurant or something to do, a local place? Students like to get off campus when their parents come visit. So what would be your recommendation?
Salvation Coffee.
Okay.
So I'm a big coffee person. I love the Oak House. It's right here next to campus. It's great. Phil, the owner, is wonderful. Great spot because there's also the other side where there's beer and wine. So it's great at 4 o'clock meeting. But Salvation Coffee is a little bit off campus. And it's not terribly far, but their sweet treats that they have there, their pastry items are amazing. And so whenever I need a little pick-me-up in the afternoon, sometimes I'll get off campus and get myself a little coffee drink and a little pastry over there.
Good choice, good choice. Well, Emily, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Yeah,
absolutely. And those of you at home, thank you so much for joining us and watching this episode of Between the Oaks, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.